constantly, you could still buy the camel. Yeah. Because the value of the money is in the money, intrinsic. But guess what happens when you abandon Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? You abandon Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and you're using the paper money. You get your salary. Instead of giving you a gold coin, they give you paper now. It could buy a camel, eh? So you carry the money home, you give it to your dullahin. Then she put it away. 5 years later, you take it out. Can't buy a camel anymore, could only buy a donkey now. You're laughing? It's not a laughing matter. No? You lose the whole month of your sweat, and only 2 weeks left now, 2 weeks gone. You have suffered loss. Did you ever realize that your loss was someone else's gain? Has it ever entered into your consciousness that your loss was someone else's gain? That as the value of the money fell, there's a massive transfer of wealth from the masses to a blood-sucking predatory elite. Yeah, that is riba as well. And then when you take out the money, another 5 years later, can't buy a donkey anymore, could only buy a goat. And if you wait long enough, you could only buy doubles. Huh? That way Indonesia reached today. Could only buy doubles. That way Turkey reached today. Could only buy doubles. This is our pathetic state. We have abandoned the Prophet ﷺ, abandoned his sunnah on these very crucial, vital issues of shirk and riba. What can we do? How can we stay out of shirk? How can we stay out of riba? I don't know about you, but I know about myself that I do not recognize the sovereignty of the state of Trinidad and Tobago. You can put me in jail for that. Go ahead, I do it. And me going and vote in no elections for no PNM or no UNC. That's how I will do it. And I'm not pledging allegiance to the constitution of this state. No. I will never do that. Of course, like everybody else, I just use the word Monday and Tuesday and January and February. So I have to pray to Allah and ask Him for forgiveness for that shirk. Because sometimes I just also say Friday, which is shirk. How can we stay away from riba? How can we bring back sunnah money? You can't do it in the market today. You've got to have to build a Muslim village. And in the Muslim village, you will have the Muslim market. And in the Muslim market, yes, you can try to bring back sunnah money. And when I stand up in this country to offer the project of a Muslim village, I am viciously attacked, maliciously attacked, monstrously attacked by the president of the ASJA. Awesomely misguided man, awesomely misguided Jamaat. But he who laughs last, laughs best. If this is our pathetic state on the front of shirk and of riba, what about the rest of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? We're talking about Muhammad ﷺ and the world today. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ was sitting in his home when his sister-in-law came in, his wife's sister. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha had an elder sister named Asma. So she came in and she was wearing clothing which was a bit transparent. So when the Messenger of Allah saw her, he turned his face away. And he said to her, Asma, when a girl reaches the age of puberty, so now she has a monthly cycle, nothing must be seen of her body except this, and he pointed to the face, and this, and he pointed to the hands. And so a woman is supposed to be covered. We use the word hijab to describe that covering, hijab. But actually hijab means a curtain, that no one can speak to Allah except min wara'il hijab. When our mothers were alive and our grandmothers were alive, we never saw a Muslim woman on the street bareheaded. Eh? You ever saw your mother bareheaded? Or your grandma? Nani Ammi? No. They used to wear something called orni, but at least they were covered. Oh, really? Where are our Muslim women today? Illa masha'Allah. The woman in hijab is the exception. The majority of our Muslim women today have abandoned hijab and have followed the Jews and Christians down into the lizard hole. She's gone to work in the bank and she's dressed like all the others in the bank. You wouldn't know she's a Muslim woman. This abandonment of the Sunnah has taken place before our eyes. Do we make an effort to try to correct it? If your wife is not in hijab, you have to answer for it. You're president of the Jamaat? You're the president of the Islamic Association? And your wife is going to work in bareheaded? Is this a joke? And your daughter going to school bareheaded? And she's a big girl? Is this a joke? What about the rest of the community? When you see Muslim women bareheaded on the streets, what about the rest of the Muslim community? Listen to the Prophet ﷺ and tell me whether we are following the Sunnah or not. He said, Man ra'a munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadi. He said, if you see something which is wrong, which is evil, change it with your hand. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. If you can't change it with your hand, he said, change it with your tongue. وَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. If you can't change it with your tongue, at least change it with your heart. What are we doing? Are we attempting to change it with our hands? Well, if not, are we speaking out against it? And if we're not speaking out against it, are we detesting it in our hearts? And if we are not even detesting it in our heart, and he said that is the weakest form of faith. That is the weakest one of all, to detest it in your heart. The overwhelming majority of the women of our community have abandoned hijab. We're not attempting to change it with the hand. We're not attempting to change it with the tongue. We're not even detesting it in the heart. Would you not agree that nothing now remains of Islam but the name? Allah has permitted in the Quran, and the Prophet ﷺ has permitted in his Sunnah, permitted a Muslim man to marry more than one wife. Does anyone want to challenge me and say I'm wrong? Come on, say it now. If I'm wrong, come and say it. He says in the Quran, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. If you fear that you will not be able to deal justly with your wives, then marry only one. But if you can deal with them justly, and if you have the means to maintain, then Allah has given you permission to marry up to 4. This is in the Quran. When I was a boy growing up, they taught me what is the definition of Islam in the CMYO. They said that the definition of Islam is submission to Allah. That is Islam. Submission to Allah. Well, submission to Allah means submission to the word of Allah, isn't it? Which means submission to the word of Allah in the Quran, isn't it? Yes. And when I went at the age of 21, 22 to Pakistan and became the student of Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, I remember it was October 1964. And we sat down for the first class with the Maulana. I think we may have been about a dozen students from about 6 different countries. And Maulana is teaching us the first class delivered in Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies. What is the lesson that he taught us? That lesson is before my eyes today as plain as the rain. He said, and of course it shocked me. It took some time for me to accept it. He said, when you know that it is the word of Allah, then whether you understand it or you don't, whether you're comfortable with it or you are not, when you know it is the word of Allah, submit to it. Understanding could come afterwards. You could come comfortable with it afterwards. But once you know it is the word of Allah, submit to it. If you don't submit, you're not a Muslim. Today, 999 out of every 1,000 women says, no, I can't accept that. Not my husband. Me, I'm prepared to share my husband with no other woman. No, no, no. It might be in the Quran, but I the Quran. I do not accept it. That is a state of brainwashing. Of course, this lecture is going to make me unpopular, but my duty is to try to please my Lord, not please the people. Someone has to speak it out. And I'm doing it tonight. This brainwashing of our Muslim women, where has it come from? It has come from that Christian Jewish world, the white world that is ruling the world today. Wherever the Christian Jewish world has not been able to influence our people and brainwash our people, our women don't behave like that. If you go to Afghanistan and see the Muslim women in Afghanistan. Go to many parts of Africa which have not as yet been touched by the white world order. And you'll see Muslim women who are not at all uncomfortable with plural marriages. Did the Prophet ﷺ shake hands with women? Come on, answer me. Did the Prophet ﷺ shake hands with women? No, he did not. No, he did not. We never did that in our history. Jazakallah. Men and women in Islam never shook hands. Never. Today, men and women in Islam are shaking hands. In Trinidad, they're worse than that. They're kissing. All over the place.